and welcome back to the Just Begin podcast. It's your host, Melly. I am the editor-in-chief of Just Begin magazine, and thank you so much for listening to our podcast. It honestly means so much for all the new listeners that we have. Like I've said before in the past, podcasting doesn't come super natural to me, and I'm really learning as I go and kind of breaking out of my comfort shell, if that even makes sense. Comfort shell, breaking out of my shell of speaking publicly on a microphone and trying to get better as I go. So I truly appreciate all the new listeners that we have, and I genuinely love speaking to all the business owners and awesome people that we get to speak to in this podcast. So in today's episode, I get to chat with Madison Nunez. She is the founder of Nude Velvet Skincare and Studio, recently a new studio now. And me and Madison, we talk about all things skincare, how she started her business, how she, sourced her products, and how she just recently launched her new studio, which if you're local Miami, you can now see her for facials. She is an esthetician as well, so definitely check that out. I put all of her links in the show notes. And yeah, we just talk about, all things skincare, and she kind of, teaches me on certain things that I'm, uneducated about, because I'm not necessarily the best when it comes to skincare. I typically keep it super simple, and but I'm not the best. So again, here I'm learning just as well as anyone else who is not an expert. And so I hope you enjoy this conversation. Madison is so sweet, and if you're local Miami, please check her out in her studio. It just launched this month, so yeah, I'm really excited for her and her journey. So let's get into the conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. Really, I just wanted to get to know you a little more, and for our audience listening to get to hear your voice and share your story, because we did feature you in our magazine a couple, I think it was like 3 or 2 editions ago, earlier this year. I believe it was April, actually, earlier this year. And I kind of wanted to have this opportunity for you to just kind of chat with you and share your story. So my first question is just introduce yourself. Who are you? And just introduce yourself.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for having me. I loved being featured a few editions ago, and I'm so excited that you guys now have a podcast. So it's funny how we were talking earlier that it's nice to see people growing, and that makes me so happy for you guys too, and Just Begin. So thank you for thinking of me for this and for having me on. But for those who don't know me, my name is Madison. I'm a licensed esthetician and the founder of Nude Velvet, which is a skincare line. And now recently is also a skin studio, which is where people can come and actually, pay for services and come get services with me. So that's my newest addition, and also a podcaster. So a lot has changed from when we first had our initial interview. And so it's crazy to see how much has changed, but I guess you can say I have my hands full.
That's so exciting. How has it been now? First question really is how did you get into skincare? Mm-hmm. How did you get involved in that industry? Yeah.
It's interesting because I always like to say that I kind of fell into skincare. It was never really something that, I always feel like people have this dream, and they're like, oh, I dream to be this or a doctor or whatever it is, right? And so I never really had that. I kind of struggled finding that passion growing up, and it even got to the point where I enrolled in university, and I was still so confused. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I kind of at that time, that's when the whole fashion industry was really booming and everyone wanted to go into fashion merchandising. And I was like, hey, maybe that's something I want to do. So I started this whole, I guess discovery of just what it was that I really wanted to do. And it happened when I actually got into a little incident with my knee. So I was actually on a ski trip and I got hurt, and it turned out I needed a surgery. It was nothing major. It was very, very minor, but I learned so much throughout that recovery process about self-care. And I was like, it was a time in my life where I lost a lot of weight and I was taking all sorts of medication that were affecting my skin. And that's how I fell in love with skincare, because I felt like, well, I don't feel good on the outside, but I can change that. I can start to, take care of myself. And that's really where the philosophy, even behind my brand, started, which is, that self-care is a very important part of our lives. And without it, I feel like it's almost impossible to do anything. And it's like I say, I fell into it and I fell in love with skincare at that time. And then one thing led to another. And I was like, hey, I should start a brand. And then I did it. And
That's
then
awesome.
eventually it turned into this newly found aesthetics career, because I actually started my line before I became an esthetician, which is funny because normally it's the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's fine. I mean, I feel like that's amazing that you turn like a negative into a positive, because there's so many times people are so scared to start. Like that
Yep.
just begin is like it's all about like kind of encouraging people to obviously just begin. And so
Yeah.
you to have, made this incident and kind of found your passion along the way. It's so funny because now you have like this brand and now a studio, a podcast, which is, so empowering for anyone listening. Like, just know, like, if you have an idea and you feel like it's calling to you, just start it. And
Yep.
if you're not, maybe down the road, if it isn't your passion, at least you know it. You kind of tried it out. It may have worked. So, however, for you, it's working. And
Definitely.
so I love your aesthetic. Your brand is so clean and chic. I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
get that out there. I love your Instagram and how you the aesthetic of it all is very like super clean and opening.
Mhm.
So what are, because I don't have a studio, what are the challenges that you're facing now? Or like what are some of the obstacles that you went through when starting, I guess, even because you have a product and a service-based business. So maybe
Yes.
we could go into product first and then you can
Mhm.
kind of share the service.
Yeah. So it's actually funny because when it came to starting the product, of course, with anything, there are obstacles and challenges you face. But I find that now looking at it, which I'm in the process of getting into my studio, I find that the product was so much easier than the actual service. And, with the product, it's basically like you make a list of what it is that you want your product to have and what your core values are, if you want to be vegan or gluten free or whatever it is. Right. And I felt like that was the easiest part. The hardest part of the product was really just partnering with manufacturers that were willing to work with such a small brand.
Mhm.
Because imagine all these manufacturers require like thousands of
Yeah.
orders, and there's no way I can order thousands of product pieces like at one time, at least not now. And I'm still not at that point, but
Yeah.
that was probably the biggest challenge with product. And it all comes down to just doing a lot of research, because eventually you'll find someone who's willing to work with you. And truthfully, with the services, this is the hardest part for me, because I graduated aesthetic school earlier in 2021. And so I haven't worked for anyone, because I'm such an entrepreneur at heart. I knew right off the bat, like I want to go on my own. And
Mhm.
that's a very big risk, because I have no clientele, to fall on in case I need, anybody coming in.
Yeah.
It's starting from scratch. And this is the biggest risk I've probably taken for my business. I'm starting fresh. I'm opening up the studio. I'm investing all this money, and I don't know if I'm going to have any clients booking. So that's the scariest thing of it. And the biggest challenge, is really pushing, because as we all know, as small businesses, it's really hard to get yourself out there in the beginning, because social media is a great way to do it, but it is very oversaturated, and it's tough to get yourself, into the faces of people. So I think that that's been my biggest challenge. And the services for sure it's a big risk. It's scary, but it's like you say, you just got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine it. For me, from what I've heard when it comes to product based businesses, that it is like what you said, kind of hard to
Mm-hmm.
like find your suppliers and all that. It really comes down to research and
Yep.
like doing that research. And I think that's super important, especially if a brand that's having to do with someone's skin, especially. And I feel like that's very like it's good to hear that, for anyone listening, like she has put in the research, her products, and you have done the work.
Definitely.
And
Mm-hmm.
so maybe you can kind of go into a little bit about your products and kind of share your product line with our audience and kind of get into that? Yeah.
Yeah. And going back to what you're saying, that's just so important, because I think the important thing you need to keep in mind if you are thinking about going into a product business is to really make sure you narrow down those core values. Like I mentioned earlier, that is so important, because you want to make sure that when you're looking for manufacturers, you're finding people that align with those values as well. And it makes the process easier. You know, it's hard to begin with, but it makes it a little bit easier when you know exactly what your non-negotiables are. And so for me, that's kind of what I did. I made sure that I really wanted a clean beauty line. Some of my products are vegan. I do believe in, the power of science. And that was important for me when it came to, finding a manufacturer as well. I wanted to make sure too that my products didn't have any fragrance and, any artificial, colors and all these different things that can be so harmful. And I take it from experience, because I have very sensitive skin, which I think is a good place for me to be as the middle person, because anything irritates my skin. So I know for a fact that if it irritates me, it's bound to irritate someone else. So I want something that's gentle enough for me and for so many different skin types, but I also want something that's effective and that's going to do its job, because there are many lines that, are really incredible and they're very gentle, but it takes time to see results. And I feel like in this industry now, we're all about that, like fast paced. We're looking. Yep. That's what it is. So, and truthfully with skincare, it's really hard to do that, because it is a process and it takes time, especially, if you want to do it in a healthy way. So all of my products are science-based, but they are clean. They are free of parabens, sulfates, all those yucky ingredients that we don't even know how to pronounce the name. Yeah, it was so important too. When you look at the back of my bottle, I want everyone to be able to read the ingredients and they're like, okay, that's avocado oil. That's, organic aloe. They know what these ingredients are. And that's super important for me as well. So I like to say that my line is a mix of just luxurious, but affordable as well. Cause that was another thing. I tried to find the lacks in the market, and I felt that I wanted something that was beautiful to put on my shelf, that worked, that was also good for me, but is also affordable, because it can get expensive, So I tried to kind of create this brand that's versatile and good for anyone. And I feel like I kind of may have achieved that.
I definitely want to go to the studio once you're open. Are you open already?
So actually I just got into the studio this week and I'm in the process of moving. So next week I'm officially open for business, but I would love to have you.
Yes, I would love to go. I want to try the products, and I feel like it's so cool for anyone listening who's local in Miami. It's so in the fence of, purchasing the products. If you're unsure, you can go to the studio and you can kind of pair, with that person, like, which is so hands-on. You can kind of, okay, I can tell from your skin, you actually need this cleanser or this moisturizer, and and give them the right tools. Because I feel like for me specifically, when it comes to skincare, I feel like an overload of information, and I have like no idea where to even start. Luckily, my skin is super sensitive, and it's good. I've never had real acne problems. So I haven't had to go through, the whole having to buy a ton of skincare, not working. I've kind of just kept it simple. However, I feel like now that I'm 24, it's like, okay, it's time to get my skincare game on.
Definitely.
What are the types of creams that I need? Like, what is retinol? All these different things that I'm not sure of and I've read about. So I feel like it's really cool that if, going to you and you can kind of give a cheat sheet per se, whatever. What is it that you need? Because I feel like right now on social media, there's so many skincare advice people, gurus, and I'm like, who is right, who is wrong? Everyone has a little bit of both. So I feel like it's just an overload. But however, I think regardless, even though an industry is saturated per se, I think it's still amazing for someone like you to even just get into it and not be scared.
Definitely. And you know what?
Big industry.
Yeah. And I think about it because skincare, essentially my dream goal is to have this amazing brand that's you can find anywhere, right? In Sephora and Ulta. And that's why aesthetics came after, because I was thinking what can I do? What can I bring to my to my current customers to add more value, to really help them achieve their skincare goals. And I was like, well, I mean, I can always become an esthetician. And, you know, when I went to school, I really did fall in love with it. And now I feel like it's such a great addition, because even me, you know, before getting into this whole skincare industry and this whole journey, I was so lost. There's so much out there, like you were saying. And when it comes to skincare, it really is not one size fits all, right? It's different, and it should be custom for everyone. So it's hard to see, you know, if your favorite influencers posting a product that maybe they rave about, but maybe it's terrible for you.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to determine that. So that's where I feel like an esthetician really comes into play and can really help you narrow down those products. And like you said, even with my products, I think it's great too, because it adds that edge to my brand now too. People can come in, they can really try the product on their skin before they buy it. And I think that that's really important, because I feel that as much of an investment skincare is, I really want people to know that they're buying things that are good for them, and not just buying it because of a marketing tactic or something, you know? Yeah, because in reality, in the end of the day, it's harming you more than it's doing you any good. So I'm actually happy to hear that you feel the same way.
Yeah, I think now as a consumer, we're so now I think we've gotten to a point where we want to know like transparency. We want to know what is it that the product is. We don't want just a cute marketing campaign anymore. You know, so I feel like with you, where you're on the upper hand now, is that you can now have people in your studio trying the products, and you have that like, you know, one-on-one experience where someone can be like, oh, actually, I love this. I love how this feels. I want to try this. So I think that's amazing. And, you know, like overall, like that's kind of the smartest way to, I wouldn't say market, but, you know, have a product, because you can actually have someone try it. Whereas some people now, it's like people just launch products without even thinking twice, you know, and I've, again, going back to social media, like I follow a ton of bloggers. I love bloggers and all of that world. However, like everyone has their own like skin, what's it called? Like routine. And they're like, here's my skin routine. And I'm like, everyone has a different thing. I'm like, I really have no idea. Like, and you just like pick and choose. And I feel like for the common woman, man, whoever, anyone with skincare, it's like, what is the right tools? Like, we really don't know.
Yeah. No.
You know, I have this like face roller from the skin conference.
Love it.
I love this thing though, but this is like one of like the main, like, I don't know if this is skincare. It's a skin-based tool.
Yeah.
I love, but I really only love it because I get so puffy. I'm tired in the morning, and it's like wakes me
and
up,
it helps.
you know.
Oh,
It helps. However, like I have very red skin sometimes, which you can kind of see here. I have no makeup on right now, but I definitely like need to get my skincare on, and we'll chat after this.
Definitely.
So I have a fun game here. So I have like a rapid question game. So I'm going to name like different skincare brands and products. And like, you could just say yes or no. Be as honest.
Ooh, okay.
So I have a couple here. So the first one is The Ordinary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Summer Fridays.
Yes. I feel like it might be yes to almost everything.
Glam Glow.
No.
I've heard that. That's so funny. I remember when it was like the hype in like, I don't know, like 2016, 2015. And it was one of those on my face, and it hurt so bad. It was like a black one. It was like in the blue bottle. That thing hurt.
I tried that same one.
I literally cried.
Yeah, it felt like my face was on fire.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's not normal.
I don't know why that's even a thing still. However,
I know.
I know. So the next one is Drunk Elephant.
I mean, I would say yes. Yeah. Their stuff is good. I mean, hey, I'm just going to say yes or no, right?
Yeah, yes or no.
So we'll just say yes.
Versed, yeah.
Yes. Love Versed.
Well, I thought that was a good, like, what's it called? Like, it's not too expensive.
And it's so easy. It's at Target. I feel like if you can get anything at Target, it's like an A+ from me.
Yeah.
And their stuff is so good.
Yeah. So speaking of like lower brands, like CeraVe.
Yes, definitely.
And the last one is I don't even know how to pronounce it. Necessary.
Necessary, yeah, because Necessary is for like your body, and I personally love their stuff. And I think also another thing that we forget is like we take care of our face, and we forget about our body and our
Body.
hair. And even our hair, I'm like, I neglected my hair so much before I came into this world of beauty. And then I chopped it all off and now it's so healthy. And I'm like, I have to take care of it.
Yeah.
But it's not just about your face, guys. You have to, your body, your hair, everything.
So funny you say that. That was the last skincare brand. I know it wasn't like necessarily for the face, but I wanted to add like a body one for anyone who's listening. But I think that's super important too, because sometimes even I forget. I'm like,
yeah.
My mom, we would always like make fun. We hated like putting like lotion on like on our legs or anything, and like we were like, oh no, it makes our hands greasy. And now I'm like, we need to lotion everything.
I know. Now the dry feeling is like bad. You're like, I don't want this dry feeling.
Like, how did I ever think lotion, like, I wouldn't say bad, but I didn't like it for a long time.
Same.
I was just like, ew, that's oily. But I think because I was back then, like the type of lotion that I knew was like Victoria's Secret lotion.
Oh, like, for sure.
Like Love Spell and like all these scents, which is like good thing I didn't like it that much because fragrance is so bad like for your skin.
I know. Like, it really is.
Now that I'm getting older, I'm like, I really got to get my skincare in check.
Yeah. And I always say it's never too early and it's never too late to start. Skincare is so important. And I truly believe in aging with grace. We're going to age. It's inevitable. That's one thing that we all know for certain. So why not just, start protecting your skin a little more, because, it's bound. We're going to have wrinkles. It's going to happen, you guys, unfortunately. But we can really protect our skin from, for example, the sun, which is the number one cause of aging. If we start at a young age, it's like you're going to save yourself so many years of aging at such an early age. And that's so important because there's people I talk to my boyfriend sometimes and he's like, I don't know, but like my dad used bar soap his whole life and like his skin looks great. And I'm like, yeah, maybe it looks great for bar, but you never know. Maybe it's not healthy. Maybe it's just so dry. Maybe it's not good. So I think it's important to curate a routine that's going to help you age with grace,
So it's funny question is, have you gotten your boyfriend into skincare? What are your tips in trying to get your partner listen? Because mine does not, even though I'm not an expert though, but I'm going to get there. So,
well, I would be lying if I said he's into it because truthfully, he was one that used bar soap up until a couple months ago. And I'm like, you're dating an esthetician. I'm like, come on, you have resources. I'm like, we've got the setup. Let me do a facial. And the truth is that he actually had a bad experience with a facial when he was so much younger, like 17, 18, and he broke out so bad after. And the truth is that happens because sometimes, if you're looking for quick results, the esthetician will kind of like pluck and poke and squeeze and do all these things just because the clients can be so adamant about wanting to see that immediate result that in the end of the day, if it's not a slow work in progress, it's going to harm your skin. So he has like that traumatizing experience. And so I have recently gotten him into a really good cleansing and moisturizing routine with an SPF, which was, oh my God, it was so hard to convince him.
Yeah.
But finally I got him on CeraVe, that brand that I said yes to. And it's been working really well for him. So it's a slow work in progress. What I keep telling him is like that the sun is, because really, ultimately, I feel like it's the sun. If you want to keep an easy, simple routine, make sure you're cleansing, moisturizing, and protecting from the sun. So it took some convincing, but I finally got him to get on a good routine. However, I have not been able to do any facials on him yet because he just refuses to let me.
That is hilarious. I think that's a good thing to know for anyone who's listening, like what you said. A lot of times people will, let's say another esthetician will just rush the process for you, whereas you are more like you're very concerned about the skin and you're going to take your time. And so if you're looking into getting this, keep in mind, everyone, that you can't have fast results. Like obviously, I think you're going to leave feeling amazing regardless of the facial. However, that one thing is not going to change over an hour.
No, skincare is a work in progress for sure.
It's a work in progress. And I think that's super important to know. But Yeah, my boyfriend, he like does not agree with me when it comes to like not being in the sun. He's like, the sun is good for you. I'm like, it
No.
ever needs sunscreen.
Yeah, with moderation. Yeah, I think they say like if you're outside for 10, at least 10 minutes, not like baking in the sun, but if you're
Mhm.
just out and about for 10 minutes, you're
Yeah.
fine.
Mhm.
But any longer than that, and if you're going to be on the
Yeah.
beach, in the pool, sitting out, it's so important. I mean, also skin cancer, it's
Mhm.
scary, but it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah,
So
and I totally agree with it. And I agree. It's like you don't have to completely hide from the sun forever, but
yeah.
start using sunscreen. So, as selfishly, my question: what is a good sunscreen? Because I know that I've heard like this whole thing, like mineral sunscreen. Not,
Or
I don't know the difference.
chemical. Yeah. So, the difference really is depending on whether so when you apply sunscreen, the difference between mineral and chemical is that one is going to either penetrate into the skin. So the sun's rays are going to penetrate into the skin and then leave, right? So it's kind of like bouncing off versus the other one actually, before it penetrates into the skin, it bounces off right away.
Mm,
Both are good. Honestly, I find that sunscreen is sunscreen and
yeah.
it's important either way, whichever one it is. It really is more of a personal preference. I heard that the mineral sunscreens with zinc oxide are better for your skin. But truthfully, I feel like if you find one that works for you, stick with it.
Yeah.
And they can be comedogenic, so they can be very clogging too. So in the end of the day, it's like whatever works for you, stick with it.
Yeah. So, what is like your go-to sunscreen brand if you have one?
My favorite one actually is from the brand called Zitsticka, which they're really known for their little pimple patches. They
Oh,
just launched one that's actually a serum and
oh
it's
wow.
amazing. So it's non-comedogenic, so it doesn't clog your pores. It's super nice. It kind of leaves like a glowy finish. And I believe it has more than SPF 30. If I can remember correctly, it's so nice. I love it. And it's easy to reapply because the key with sunscreen too is to reapply every couple of
Yeah.
hours.
So that was something I did not know.
Yeah.
Like really, I was like, oh, like you have it on and it's enough.
No, same, honestly, until recently. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Until recently, until like I try not to be on TikTok too much, and I've said that
I
before in
know.
other podcast episodes. Like I will be on it, and I'm like scrolling for like an hour, and I'm like, this is too much. But I
Same.
learned so much I save from it because it's like a bunch of skincare people or like business people. And so
Yes.
I had like saw a video of like you need to reapply sunscreen like every I don't know, some person like every
They
hour.
say every 2 hours or something like that. Yeah.
And I was like, what?
It's a lot.
Like I've been doing this all wrong. I'm here thinking I'm like, oh, I'm doing such a great job. However, that was not the case. And I where I work,
I
my
know.
is right like a window. And so I read some
Mhm.
other articles like you should be wearing sunscreen even if you're indoors. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes. Yep, I know. No, and we're all guilty of it. Even as an esthetician, I'm so guilty of going days without. I'm right next to a window as well, and I'm so guilty of it. It's just when you don't find the right product for you, it's hard.
Yeah.
And then also if you wear makeup to reapply, it's another pain. So
Mm.
there are like setting sprays with SPF. There are different products, like even
Mm.
powders. So that's important to look into. But truthfully, I feel like if you're putting a good layer and you're covering even your neck and your décolleté area,
Mm.
I feel like you're set. But if you're going to
Yeah.
be out in the sun physically, like tanning or on the
Yeah, yeah.
beach, it's so important every 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. I haven't yet to found like haven't found one that I really like. Like I've used
Mhm.
I believe it was CeraVe, yeah, because I was like looking in Target. I was like, I need a
Yeah.
sunscreen. I don't even know. And I got like a CeraVe one, and it's just like too much of a white cast for me. However, I've been doing
Yep.
like heat it up a little bit with your hands first and then
Mhm.
put it. So like I still use it because I don't want to waste the product. I have it,
Yeah.
but I'm not in love with it. So I definitely want to check out the one
Mhm.
that you said. I
Yeah,
like the
definitely.
serum that's more glowy because I have very
Yes.
sensitive skin and it's pretty dry.
Same here.
So I have
Yep.
like, yeah, like dry spots. So I feel like I want something like smoothing, like
Hydrating. Oh, for sure. So that one would be great. Another one too, is from Crave Beauty, their Korean skincare line.
Mhm.
And they have one called the Beach Shield. That one is amazing. It doesn't have that white cast. It's also less creamy, more of a serumy texture. Things like that are what I gravitate towards most because they just look better on the skin. You don't have to be rubbing them in for like
Yeah.
minutes. because that's the other thing is finding a good sunscreen that doesn't have that white cast and that
Yeah.
takes you forever to rub in. Then it leaves you kind of looking so red because you're there like massaging it for so long.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem I face. I'm like,
Yep.
like, why do I look even worse?
I know, same
Put this
here.
on, and then I'm like, I have to put makeup over this, and I try not to wear makeup like at all during the week unless I have to go out or something.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
when I have just a sunscreen on, I'm like in the house, I'm like I look so red. I'm like this.
I know.
I
The
wanna look
serum will work
decent.
for you.
Yeah, I want to try that then. So one of my last questions I have here is if you had to live with one skincare product, what would it be? I know that's like such a hard question because skincare is like a variety of things, but
Definitely.
if you had to pick like one thing, like what's your favorite, maybe what's your favorite product to put on that you love to wear?
I have to think about this a little bit. So cleansing is so important, but honestly, if I had to live with one product, I feel like I can make do with like, I hate saying this. I guess I can make do with like a body wash or like a bar of soap, right? Because honestly, for me, what works best for me and what I see the biggest difference is a moisturizer. And in particular, one that I really love that has made such a difference with my skin is the Miami Beach Bum, which they're also a local brand. They're facial in a jar because it's made to balance your skin's microbiome. And I feel like if I use a bad cleanser, but I have that one product, I feel like I'll be set.
Oh, that is awesome. I definitely want to check them out. I see them all the time on my feed and I'm like, I need
Yeah,
to reach out to this brand and like maybe get something. Yeah.
they've got great stuff for
Yeah.
sure.
Beach Bum. Okay, that's funny. I would pick a moisturizer too because
Mhm.
my skin is so dry and like red.
Yeah,
I feel like whenever I put a moisture on, I'm like, I'm happy. I'm like,
same here. It makes
so much
such a
better.
difference.
Yeah, it's such a difference. I hate feeling like dry and stuff. So moisturizer
Same here.
for sure. So
Yeah.
so now to kind of close things up, where can everyone reach you? Like, just share with everyone your how to get connected with you, your studio, your hours, and all that stuff.
Of course. So I have so many things going on. So that means I have many accounts, which are so hard to keep up with. But if I had to give you one, you can follow me on Instagram at Madison Nunez _. And on there, you can be redirected anywhere you want to go, whether it's my podcast, my skincare line, or my skin studio. And as for the skin studio, I'm located in Doral, Florida. So you can pretty much find me currently 7 days a week. I'm open 7 days a week. I'm really just whenever anyone wants to come in, I'm there. I love it so much. And I'm running a promo actually for anyone that's interested for the month of August. Any appointments booked in August, you can get 20% off a 50-minute facial. So it's a great introductory, service to come in and get. And that way I can get to know your skin and we can kind of set in a good plan for you.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I feel like this is super helpful for me. We're going to get scheduled and make sure everyone to check out Madison, Nude Velvet Skincare, and the podcast is Skin Love Podcast.
Yes.
Yes. So I see.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Yes, we'll do.